Welcome to the NRA Fast Casual Industry Council Gathering, where we discuss the opportunities and challenges restaurant companies face in today's world. I'm Larry Reinstein, CEO of LJR Hospitality Ventures, and our subject today is working in fast casual restaurants in 2021, and what kinds of changes do we expect over the remainder of the year. I'd like to welcome our outstanding leaders as panelists. Don Fox, the CEO of Firehouse Subs, Jeff Drake, the CEO of Protein Bar, and Michael Haith, the CEO of Teriyaki Madness. I'd like to ask each of you, starting with Don, to take a minute and tell us about your companies.
Hello, everybody, and thanks to Fast Casual Industry Council for the opportunity to address everyone. I'm the CEO of Firehouse Subs. We have 1,200 restaurants in the United States and Canada. Hope to open perhaps another 50 to 60 in 2021, and we're having a great year. So I'll leave it at that and pass the baton.
Okay, Jeff.
Hi, my name is Jeff Drake. I'm the CEO of Protein Bar and Kitchen. It's great to be here. We are a fast casual, better for you restaurant based here in Chicago. We have 12 restaurants, corporate locations, and 1 licensed location. We are in the process of reopening restaurants. 8 of our 12 are open. We intend to open the next over the coming months as the city of Chicago returns to what will be the new normal for the Loop in downtown.
And Michael.
I am Michael Haith, the CEO of Teriyaki Madness. We've got 101 shops open as of today. We look to open another 40 to 45 this year. 2021, our same-store sales are amazing compared to the drop we experienced right out of COVID.
So Don, how was business during the first quarter? And are there any specific tactics or programs Firehouse implemented that were successful?
Yeah, we carried a ton of momentum into the first quarter from 2020. Just to backtrack a little bit, without telling too many war stories from the height of the pandemic, like everybody else, we started out very down, negative 45% at the outset of the pandemic. But by mid-May, we had gotten back to prior year sales levels. And by the end of May, we were hitting all-time record sales, and that continued through the end of 2020. And then, in December, we were doing extraordinarily well. To give you some context, if you go back over recent years, it was a big deal for our brand if we had average unit volume in a given week over 15,000. That would have been like a big smile on my face to do over 15. We were hitting 16 in December. For the first time, we did a great promotion, T-Mobile, something that was a little bit new for us, gave us some great new trial for the brands and different customer base, and that was effective. So we go into January expecting the normal, some seasonal downturn, that the whole industry experiences coming out of the holidays, and whether it's driven by personal budgets, diets, people embracing different diets with New Year's resolutions. Typically, it's a soft time. It wasn't at all. We were way over indexing in performance, and still, of course, comping over non-pandemic. So we were up close to 20% over pre-pandemic numbers in January and February. And then as we got deeper into the quarter, just kept getting better and better. So we ended up breaking 17,000 AUV, 18,000 AUV, and most recently, just the last couple of weeks, over 19,000 AUV. So it's been extraordinary what has been happening, all with less and less people. I know we'll talk about staffing, but doing these record numbers with that headwind, credit to our teams for doing it. That is challenge number 1 right now.
Well, the good news, it sounds like really good business, Don. Jeff, what's happening? What happened in your world during the first quarter?
Yeah, so we were in an entirely different world than Don's. Our restaurant portfolio is really focused in the downtown urban market, the central business district of Chicago called the Loop. Our primary restaurant population was very dedicated to that setting. And I will tell you, the city of Chicago was one of the cities most significantly impacted by COVID and people just not coming to work. It's interesting. We have restaurants a couple of restaurants in the suburbs of Chicago, and one in Lincoln Park, which is a neighborhood here in Chicago. And they outperformed where they were prior to COVID, similar to sort of Don's situation. But downtown in the city was really challenged throughout 2020. We've begun to see definitely people starting to return to work. The city of Chicago is sort of driven by the weather. And we've started to see the temperatures start to become a little bit more friendly and warmer, and we've definitely seen traffic return. So in the city of Chicago, we've been very pleased with sort of the rebound we're on and the trajectory we're on. I would say that our average weekly sales over the last 4 weeks are up about 25% for the Loop from where they were from October through February. And so we're definitely seeing people return to work. I think people getting vaccinated, people starting to understand what it's like. We still have a long ways to go in downtown Chicago, but we're starting to definitely see some green sprouts and some definite activity in the Loop and in the city.
Terrific. Was there a specific program you put together over the first quarter of the year that you implemented that was successful that you want to talk about?
Yeah, one of the things that we did, and really we began it in the fourth quarter of 2020 and really pushed it hard in the first quarter of 2021. Protein Barn Kitchen is known for its protein shakes. We're best in class and made to order protein drinks. It's something that's been part of our mix and part of our DNA since the very beginning. Shakes make up about 20% of our total menu mix at Protein Barn Kitchen. One of the things that we did, we saw a lot of people out in the space looking to do other things to drive traffic to their restaurants with ghost concepts and the like, utilizing their back of the house for other things. We sort of went in another direction. We leaned into something that we do really well, which is around blended drinks. And in October of 2020, we focused on launching an immunity shake, a shake that was not protein-based, but was really focused on immunity, zinc, echinacea, cayenne pepper, organic honey, mango, a vitamin C bomb, if you will. And it exploded. We found that there was incredible demand from our consumer base on having a shake that wasn't protein-based, but was immunity-based. And from that, we actually launched a category called Super Blends, which is an entirely new category for our business. The Super Blends are nutritionally functional beverages, but just not protein-based. So we introduced a detox shake right after the first of the year, people coming out of the holidays and looking to do something about that, an energy shake, and as well as a beauty shake. We have a recovery shake that we're going to be launching this summer as people are getting back outdoors with activity and looking for something to recover from workouts and the like. So it was definitely a successful launch and something that we were sort of challenged to look for other ways to do things. I'm sort of kicking myself. We should have done it a long time ago, but I guess desperate times call for creative thinking. And it was something that, again, very successful, really impactful to our business, and gave another use for Protein Bar to our consumer base, as well as attracting new guests as well.
And most important, Jeff, you did it. So
we did it. I have to tell you, Don, the funny thing about it is when I was presented this orange shake, and I told our culinary team it had to be orange because we had a stock photo of a limited time offer shake that was orange previously, and we were limiting our spend. We weren't going to do a photo shoot for this immunity shake. And the person who put this together sent it to me at 8 o'clock at night and introduced the Fauci to me. So we named the shake the Fauci, which in Chicago plays very well. And it was, we have a location at Northwestern Hospital with the orange shake on the digital menu boards, and we have the doctors and the nurses taking selfies with the Fauci. So it's been a lot of fun and something that really worked really well.
Sounds like great creativity. So Michael, how was business during the first quarter, and tell us about a specific tactical program?
Well, back to kind of Don's world, we saw the last 3 quarters of 2020 up 18%. And we expected a bit of a drop. 2020, we actually finished our 2021 first quarter, we finished 21% up. We're watching our same store sales jump. And we did so well because we really have been focused on convenience for the consumer. How can they do non-touch ordering? How can they get their food in a convenient manner? We've always been focused outside the 4 walls, 65 to 80% in each one of our shops. And this just really exaggerated that. First quarter, we didn't need to pivot on any of our programs, but our focus has been, how do we compete with QSR drive-through? How can we really go ahead and, as a fast casual who doesn't have a 30-second pull the food off the rack, throw it in a bag, hand it out the window type of concept, how do we compete? And that was curbside. We have been focusing on creating super convenient, super fast curbside, where we don't even need spots where the cars pull in. It's so fast that they just need to pull up. We put it in the seat and off they go. So if there's a pivot or something that we're really focused on in that first quarter, it's curbside. I have to say, unfortunately, it's almost too successful. Our shops just got hammered, and now on an operations basis, we're trying to figure out how to deal with the response. But I guess there's worse problems than that.
And yes, and we'll come back to that for sure. So Don, beginning with you, as you look back over the past year, describe the most important things you learned that will impact the way you and Firehouse Subs will do business in the future.
You know, this is going to piggyback on Michael's comment. You know, we were historically, if you go back a lot of years, we were primarily a dine-in brand. Back 2012, 53% of our business was dine-in. Now, over the years since 2012, it was declining. And the industry had been seeing that and moved to off-premises in various ways, just not about third-party delivery. Through all channels of trade, that's where the consumer was moving. There's a lot of influences that were causing that over many years. Heading into the pandemic, our dine-in business on the system level, we started the year at 37%. So gradually from 53 down to 37, much different. So we had made changes already strategically to account for that, changed our packaging, reinforced our online ordering, had encouraged third-party delivery, even incentivized it for our operators. Thank goodness, because those tools were all in place when the pandemic happened. And obviously, those, as Michael said, those that were able to play in the convenience game that could satisfy the needs of the off-premises consumer, those are the brands that were in a position to win. As much as I'm proud to be considered fast casual, our success lies in being a QSR. And I think the same is true for all fast casuals right now. That may be overstating it a bit, but your success is going to be in satisfying those consumer need states. Because when I look at our brand, what gets me excited is that because of the pandemic, consumers discovered us for an off-premises experience that they might not have considered us for before. And wow, did we hit a home run with them. So going forward, our strategy is predominantly built on protecting that, but that's where I see the growth coming. Well, we'll get back some incremental traffic for dine-in. You know, that some people come, but that's not what I'm betting the farm on in the future. It's going to be how we continue to satisfy off premises. And I'll tell you, pre-pandemic, I don't think people, generally speaking, within the fast casual arena would have been focused on that as strong as we're all going to be.
Great learning, Don. Off premise, go get them. Jeff, how about yourself? What do you find as you look back over the past year that was the most important thing you learned, or things you learned?
Well, we were fortunate that we had a pretty sophisticated tech stack going into COVID. So we were equipped and built to deal with what happened where the consumers stopped coming into the restaurant and were ordering through digital channels. So we were set up to handle that and to manage that. We had some restaurants in downtown Chicago pre-COVID that were doing 75% of their orders that were digitally originated primarily through our app, but also through third parties. So we had that part of the business sort of figured out. I will tell you that one of the things that we've learned a lot is how to do more with less. And I believe that protein bars will be much more efficient from a labor model perspective, whatever the new normal looks like as people come back to work, because so many of our consumers have learned how to use digital platforms to interact with us, primarily our app. And I just think the days of the line out the door and us having 4 cashiers are probably in the past. We're going to be that much more efficient of handling the orders. I think that the guests will not tolerate standing in a line anymore. I think that's a new reality for us in QSR fast casual. And that if you have the tech stack and you can leverage and continue to teach people how to use it, you can have a much more efficient business. And to Michael's point, eliminating friction. The consumer does not want friction in the experience, as well as the team members don't want friction. So you have to have a tech stack that can manage this demand.
Yeah.
And I think that we did a lot around tweaking that and making it better and more efficient for both sides of that equation. But you know, the thing that I'm most excited about, Larry, just to jump ahead, is that we're starting to see our average unit volumes get back to where they were pre-COVID with very little breakfast business. Breakfast used to be about 15% of our total sales. Breakfast hasn't returned at all yet. For our consumer, you know, we're doing very little business at breakfast. And I believe in the new normal, breakfast will return. And so I'm really excited about how we've added this new business model, and we have a breakfast built out that's always been part of our DNA that I'm really excited about to see those consumers to return. So I think there's a lot of upside for our business and our brand with when the new normal eventually gets there, hopefully in the third and fourth quarter of this year.
That sounds terrific, Jeff. How about yourself, Michael? What have you learned primarily over the last year that you're taking moving forward with in your business?
Well, I'm going to combine what both Don and Jeff both said. Our tech stack saved our bacon. We've been investing in that for a number of years now, and it was absolutely key to our results over the last year or so. And I think I've been able to articulate a little better for Don's comment. We're applying QSR methodologies to fast casual. We still have the quality food and service and positioning of a fast casual, but certainly in the back of the house, certainly in the way we do business, we think more QSR.
That's major learning. That's a major change of pace. I think that fast casuals, when you said the word QSR going back a year or two ago, you weren't looked upon favorably. So very, very interesting. So is there a new product or service that's been implemented in your restaurants that has come about because of what was learned over the past year, Don?
You know, we even though we were in a pretty good place from the tech standpoint, we had some things that were still in process. For example, one was using a service called Novodyne, which is an aggregator for our third-party deliveries. That was not in place at the start of the pandemic. It got rolled out to most of the system in process. That has been a big relief because, as you know, with third-party delivery services, unless you have some aggregation device, it's the old, now fortunately it's in the past, but the old 6 iPads on the counter type thing. So that was very advantageous and helped smooth things out from an operations perspective. But the other is, you know, some other key learnings. You know, we're learning so much about the consumer. That was one of the, I found to be an invigorating challenge with the pandemic. You see, trying to plan the route ahead when you have really no precedents to build upon. There was nothing you could look at. I've been at this 47 years. I've experienced a lot of things. I tried to reach into the memory banks and the vault to see what I could draw on, and there was very little. So the real key was using data, because I've invested a lot in terms of our analytics and the team we have internally, external resources we have, and had to start to look at all that very quickly, figure out how to look at that data differently, and then the correlating factors between different data points that didn't exist before. We might not look at the same way. We had to very quickly master that. I think we did a good job of it. And that started to get us out ahead in terms of some of our planning, our marketing. And, you know, it's helped fuel our success. Predicting where the consumer is going to be in terms of usage of dining rooms, let's say, or knowing, you know, as casual dining returns, is that going to hurt us or not? We've concluded it's not. And that's from looking at data. That we already have some canaries in the coal mine where you have some markets in the country where casual dining is in better shape. Anyway, so it's intellectually very, again, invigorating to try to figure all this out on the fly. And I think those that can, because all the data is unique to your individual brands, and how the consumer using your brand now is different than it was, and you know, for everybody in a unique way. And So we become much more nimble is an overused term. But yes, when it comes to data analytics too, we've had to become much more nimble.
Sounds like you've sliced and diced the data pretty well, Don. Jeff, in your world, is there a new product or service or something that's come about other than the Fauci, which is obviously an awesome idea? Is there something else that's come about because of what you've learned?
Yeah, so we've tried a bunch of different things, and something that we recently tried that we're pretty excited about is a subscription program with Protein Bar. You know, we're heavily tied to fitness and studio fitness, and we hope both of them recover as well as the restaurant industry. But we have found consumers where we did a test where we did a limited offer to some of our better customers where we sold a subscription for a price, and you got either 4 meals or 4 shakes, however you wanted, for a month. And we wanted to find out how they would, you know, first of all, what the breakage would be, but also if it would change their behavior. And with the 100 people that we got enrolled in this, we saw some really exciting sort of behavioral changes. We saw a definite increase in frequency of use versus what they prior used through our app and how they interacted with us. And we were really discovering that there's a demand for different types of subscriptions. And we think, again, nothing like a global pandemic to drive everyone's awareness of their health and wellness, that as people come out of quarantine and eating pizza and chicken wings and drinking beer every night, that they're going to want to get back to taking care of themselves and get back into a routine of health and wellness. And Protein Bar and Kitchen is going to be very well positioned to welcome them back to work and back into our place. And so we're excited about this subscription program. It's something that we are really putting some work around and launching for after Labor Day. That's when we expect to see the highest density of people returning to work in Chicago. And we're really excited about seeing the increased use and frequency that the subscription program did with consumers who are already heavy users of the brand. So something that we gave a shot and got a lot of success on, and something we're excited to roll out later this year.
Excellent. Michael, is there a new product or service that's been implemented in Teriyaki Madness?
Yeah, we've always done a lot of consumer research and a lot of analytics. It was pretty hard to go ahead and take our psychographics and demographics and apply them in a COVID atmosphere because all bets were off. One thing we did see was that, you know, people weren't going into work, so our ticket sizes were a lot bigger as people were staying home with their families. So it was pretty easy to determine that family meals were going to be a big hit. Our catering went to nothing, obviously,
Right.
and our family meals just took off. So grouping meals so the consumer could order to be delivered, a one-stop shop with some customization available, and allowing them to spend more money, giving them plenty of customization and add-ons, proved to be one of our biggest winners.
That's great. That's great. So as we move into the second quarter, Don, what are your expectations for sales the second quarter? And then if you can take that crystal ball and use, as you said, these are unforeseen times, and look even toward the third quarter, what do you see for sales? And are there any new tactics that you see being deployed that are going to be beneficial?
I think that brands that are performing at a strong level heading into the second quarter are only going to be that much stronger throughout this quarter and in all likelihood throughout the balance of the year. The things that made you strong are going to be still the attributes that carry through. And I'll carve out an exception of sorts because, you know, Jeff's in a much different situation. He's in a brand that's challenged because of the geography. So I would submit he's focusing on the right things, same kind of things that Michael and I are talking about. He just needs the marketplace to return is a challenge. But that's just unique to those urban cores. So I have some sandwich rivals that are in that situation. Potbelly is very focused on that, where it's apples and oranges. I'm hardly in that space at all in my 1,200 restaurants. So that's been to my advantage. But those that have those strengths are going to continue to capitalize on them. And one of the key reasons is restaurant closures. I mean, there's some of these things as the consumer comes back, it boils down to simple supply and demand.
Right.
The demand created by consumers coming back to the marketplace is higher than the pace of, let's say, replacement of closed restaurants. There's going to be this imbalance, and most would agree, if not 100% of people would agree in the industry, that the industry was overbuilt. before this. So this has pruned the tree a bit, so much so that those that are operating with the right strengths are killing it. All right, and again, I'm not even sure yet. Well, some would say that we're at a point now where we are adding back to the restaurant count, but still, it is going to be at a gradual pace, and not at a pace that is going to equal demand. Think about it this way. Sorry to take up a little bit more time on this, but it's an important point. There are still millions of consumers who have not gone to restaurants, who still don't feel comfortable. I mean, Michael, you hit on a key thing in terms of psychographics. I've mentioned this before. A lot of us rely on Prism, 64 psychographic profiles of customers. A lot of us use it to segment our clientele, to set up our advertising. 64 psychographic profiles. Well, in the age of the pandemic, take that 64 and multiply it by 6, because in every one of those 64 psychographic profiles, the COVID has impacted each of those in a multitude of ways. It's subdivided like never before. So many of every one of those groups are not necessarily back in the marketplace. I get very bullish on the way the rest of the year is going to go, as more and more millions of people enter back in. And I'll just finish with this. This is why watching behavior is so critical, because some people will come in just still dipping their toe in the pool. It's not like somebody who hasn't been going to restaurants because of health concerns is going to now walk in and be a dining customer. Oh, they'll start to dip their pool with various forms of takeout and so on. Maybe my traditional takeout person, maybe they'll get a little bit more comfort level to come in and sit down. But it's going to be shifting sands for still a very long time.
Terrific. Jeff, how do you see it?
No, I agree with Don, and I think that the downtown urban cores of the major metropolitan markets in this country, where Don mentioned that the restaurant industry was overbuilt. Well, the major urban markets were really overbuilt, and we sort of look at it. If we can get back to downtown Chicago, back to 70% of its occupancy by the end of this year, we know that more than 30% of the restaurants are gone. And so our share, we're very excited about our share as people are coming back to work. And it's pretty interesting. We're starting to see regulars, protein bar, people use protein bar similar to a Starbucks, where they use it every single day. It was part of their routine. They come in and get a shake and go to work. And these people disappeared for 12 months. And now they're starting to reappear, and they're re-engaging with the restaurant like, oh, I was still ordering protein bar, but I was just ordering it from your Lincoln Park store at home and having it delivered or doing curbside pickup or whatever it may be. So we're starting to see people come back into the market and re-engage with the brand. We are very excited about getting the chance to do something you never get to do in the restaurant industry, is get to make another first impression. Because there's so many people who have been away from us for so long that they've sort of have, if they have any lingering doubts about us, we have this great opportunity now to make a great first impression again, which is something, again, that I've always been taught you only get to make that once. Well, COVID's presenting our brand with an opportunity to make another first impression. So we're really excited about it. I think, Larry, to your question, we're going to see continual gradual improvement every week until we get to the fourth quarter. And then I do believe, in just talking to the landlord and the business community, people are going to start expecting people to come back to the office. They may not be coming back after Labor Day 5 days a week, but even if 2 or 3 days a week, this is the magnitude to my business when that happens is going to be tremendous, just because of the things we mentioned. The competition has shrunk a little bit, and I think we're really well positioned for the consumer as they come back to market. So I, as well, in spite of my current environment, am very bullish on the restaurant industry and our space.
Michael, am I going to get a third set of optimism coming from you?
Yeah, but maybe not so enthusiastic. My crystal ball is pretty cloudy. We're so far up. We're really focusing on fundamentals and how do we continue to provide superior service to our increase in volume and those customers. I agree with everything that's been said. There's fewer choices. The restaurant industry was overbuilt. We've been discovered by a whole new set of folks. We have been able to prove ourselves to these folks through our technology and our third-party delivery. So how's our in-house dining going to go when they come back into our restaurants? one note of caution for me is I think as government programs start running out for operators that are perhaps a bit weaker and can't necessarily, maybe independents that can't afford the tech stacks and can't afford the market and consumer research. The end of third quarter, fourth quarter, we may see a bit of some more bad news for the restaurant industry and folks being able to stay in the game. I don't know. Once again, it's really murky for me. I am entirely positive for our brand. Once again, there's a whole lot of people with bigger problems than, gosh, how do we go ahead and deal with this influx of new customers?
Mhm.
So most restaurant companies are facing challenges staffing their restaurants. I don't think that's news to anybody, but it seems to be the worst I've heard from talking to several operators recently. How are your companies dealing with this, and what are the specific tactics you're using for recruiting and retention? Why don't we start with you, Don?
Yeah, we recently, really for the first time ever, did a national recruitment where we took some of our ad dollars from our system fund and moved it over to try to bring in applicants. But this has been a challenge, but it is really heightened during the last couple of weeks. Now, again, we've moved into some really record sales and traffic territory, so it's really put some pressure on it. And I've heard anecdotally just some tough stories about how understaffed some of the franchise locations. We're predominantly a franchise brand. So I have 38 restaurants that we own and operate, most of the 1,200 being franchised. So, but I am really glad that we own and operate those 38 restaurants, because that gives me the chance to set best practices and provide leadership in this arena. So just recently, this week, I've helped combat it. And we've got a great company operations team. And by the way, almost all the restaurants are in Northeast Florida. In Florida, we have minimum wage of $8.65. You may be aware there's legislation passed. It will go up to $10 in September, and then $1 a year for after that. We weren't, as a brand, we weren't hiring at $8.65 anyway. Probably the typical starting wage is close to $10, but we just made the move the other day. We went to $12 wage here in Northeast Florida for our restaurants. First of all, none of what we can accomplish, obviously, is possible without our people. So we highly value them to begin with, and we're very proud of our teams. We saw there was a real need there to really step it up. And you see the pressures, not as much with, at least in this part of the country, I don't see the pressure coming from other restaurant chains as far as wages. I do see it coming from other businesses, whether it's Amazon or Walmart. If you're from the Texas area, you may be familiar with the brand Buc-ee's, the mega gas station concept. They are expanding outside. They opened up a location here in Northeast Florida, their first one, and hiring at $15. So these things are putting pressure on the marketplace. Fortunately, we're doing great. So it gives us the opportunity to move around, and we better do it now and be in a more competitive, to put ourselves in a more competitive position, retain our talent, have a stronger recruitment message. I think that's just the top of the list of the things that we need to do, looking at benefits in a different way. Even things like our meal benefits for our employees, we've changed and gone to free meals or 1 day a week that they can feed their family. We're looking at a multitude of things to try to make sure we're to put it simply, a employer of choice. And I'll leave you with this one thought on this topic. That's something I've said for years to our operators. Is it a tight labor market? Sure it is. But around every Firehouse Subs restaurant today, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people within a 10-minute drive that are doing that exact type of job. So it's not that there's a shortage of people willing to work in restaurants. It's just they're not working for us.
We got to get a good team done, right?
They're out there, but you've got to be the employer of choice if you're going to offset the problem.
Jeff, how do you see it?
So, well, we're very fortunate from a staffing perspective and from a management perspective right now. I think I think that we definitely are more efficient. Our box is more efficient now, particularly our team, our deployment. So we'll need less employees with this new normal, just because of what's happened with the customer change. We sort of lean in really hard on our internal team through referrals. And there's a big sense of ownership of referring someone to the company. There's a referral bonus that's associated, but there's also a sense of accountability to this person coming in. It's sort of interesting. We've looked at this horrible thing that we went through where we furloughed 275 employees and come out on the other side. And I was listening to Michael say he wasn't as maybe as optimistic as Don and I laugh at myself, because a year ago at this time, the world was definitely ending. It was over. I was finished. We were done. It was never going to happen. So to hear myself talk today, it's like, who is this crazy guy? But we have really leaned in on making it very difficult to get a job at Protein Bar and Kitchen. We've actually just said, we come out and interview that we don't hire, we don't hire most of the people we interview, because we can right now, because we're staffed, we're small, and we're nimble. And I always sort of gone back to pre-COVID. There were definitely, we used to do an exercise in all of our restaurants and all of our teams, a 10-80-10. You had your top 10%, your middle 80%, and your bottom 10%. And the bottom 10%, you were trying to move up into the middle or out, turn them into a customer, right? We don't have any of that. We have like the top 10% is everybody who's working at this company right now. And we make a big deal about it. We talk about it internally, about the quality of the people that are gonna work at Protein Bar and Kitchen. So we're doing all of the things that Don talked about. I challenge my team just the way that he does, is that you can't find someone, my God, there's 30 restaurants around us and there's really good employees working in the 30 restaurants. What are we doing not to get those people? But I think it's almost to the advantage of people as they're looking at their teams, that there's going to be people who are going to be re-entering the restaurant space, and to create an environment where it's really tough to get a job there is something that I think is to our benefit, and it's something that we're going to continue to lean in on.
Terrific. Michael?
Yeah, this one's a tough one for us. We've got real kitchens. We've got a real line with, we need some higher skilled employees. We found that the teriyaki shops that were open didn't have too much of a problem retaining staff. It's the new ones that we're opening that are really having a tough time recruiting. We do pay above market. We're not concerned about minimum wage. We started about 12. We're pushing towards 15 pretty quickly, if not higher. It's an issue, and there's some perhaps programs out there that are disincentives for folks coming out and getting a job with us. Our focus really is, let's focus on the competition and how can we go ahead and entice others. They are out there, to Don's point. How can we provide a better opportunity for them? I don't see staffing getting better anytime soon. We just have to provide that go-to preferred employer, like Don was talking about. And what does that mean? Does that mean flex time? Does it mean bonuses, bennies, creating a culture of recognition? But at the very bottom, you gotta pay them. Right. And they're gonna, especially at the maybe entry level folks, that's how they're gonna compare apples to oranges, perhaps, is, gosh, I can make another $1 an hour over here. Why wouldn't I just work over here? So that's the battle that we're fighting.
So in addition to labor, how has supply chain changed? And how's that impacting your business? Are any of you using ketchup or pickles, and do you have them in your restaurants right now? Don, what's going on?
Fortunately, I don't use a lot of ketchup. Do use a lot of pickles. So we're braced for spot outages, but actually it seems like we're getting through it okay. But supply chain generally has been a big challenge at various times during the pandemic for various reasons. Just focusing on where it is now. Right now, it's a lot about the workforce. I mean, so here we are in the restaurant industry challenge. Our distributors are challenged with labor. Our suppliers, our manufacturers are challenged. You know, we have people not running at full production. Distribution in particular, we use a network of a variety of distribution companies. DCs around the country, and virtually all of them are struggling with absenteeism. Those stimulus checks, it just wasn't entry-level employees that impacted that decided to stay home and not work. No, it goes pretty far up the income chain. So yeah, we feel the pain, and it's something I have to frequently remind our operators of because they know how hard they're working. They know they've got the shortages. They consider themselves a customer of the distribution center, the vendor. It's like, hey, how can these people not have their act together? We're their customer. And I got to remind them, look, we're all in this together. We are all suffering under hardships to different degrees. So let's be sympathetic towards each other. Realize that really no different. We'll get through it together. It's funny how quickly we can forget how bad it was sometimes,
Right.
Not all that long ago. And just that moment of reflection to step back and say, hey, there was at one point we're thinking we're not going to survive this. If I'm out a few pickles in the greater scheme of things, nobody we can survive that. Let's keep things in perspective.
Can anybody make sure Dawn continues to have pickles, please? Jeff, how's supply chain affecting you?
Yeah, so recently we're starting to see some significant pressure around some packaging, and this was not our logoed packaging. This is some packaging that we've used for a number of years, and just the amount of to-go business I think is caught up with the line runs for these guys, and concepts that didn't used to do any to-go business are using our containers, and they've run into some shortages. So we've been scrambling and using alternative specs. Again, to Don's point, again, it's not the end of the world that we're using a different bowl or a different lid than we normally do. The customer's going to give us the benefit of the doubt for a short period of time, just as long as we get through it. The bigger challenge is we have a few proprietary proteins on our menu that are really very specific to our brand promise. And so we just recently, yesterday, were confronted with a very significant possible shortage of turkey bacon. And turkey bacon is something, and this label and this production of this turkey bacon is very specific to our brand promise. And this guy, he's a relatively small maker. He's got staffing issues, to Don's point, getting people to come to work. And our line of bacon isn't the most important line that he has, so he had to prioritize. So he had to basically change and move our line work off and take care of some of his other bigger customers. So it's something that we're scrambling with right now as we speak. And I'm worried that we're going to again look and see our manufacturers being confronted with the labor challenge and the labor market and the labor problems that we've all talked about.
Michael?
Yeah, it's been pretty recent. And it's, well, when COVID first started, there were obvious protein supply chain issues and that kind of thing. Settled down for a little while. And then it does appear to be through the distributors. We use Cisco nationwide. They've had their challenges. But we're pretty empathetic to Don's point as to their plight, and with the fluctuations in not only restaurants closing and opening, and who knows if they're going to be open next week or they're going to be at 50%. It's tough these days. But one of the surprising things is the lack of CDL drivers. So we used to get night drops. We haven't seen a night drop in a while. We're just happy to get our food. We used to complain about getting it over lunchtime. Man, that truck shows up at 12 and we're still happy to have the guy deliver the food. But it kind of is what it is. The economy is roaring back, and I think it's catching people either flat-footed or there is no solution to just rebounding this quickly. So, once again, volume, there's bigger problems. I hate to keep saying that, but it's gosh, there's so much business that they don't have enough CDL drivers, or, we're just happy to get our food.
It does go back to just how unprecedented things are, because look at the cycles that we went through on supply chain. Because, and again, totally sympathetic at the distribution level, when their business went to 30, down to only 30% of what it was. The industry, they had customers down 80, 90%, inventory sitting on the shelves, bills to pay, it was a mess. So they have to take drastic actions just to keep themselves solvent. But then remember when the first stimulus money came out in April, and relatively speaking, boy, there was a spike that now just in a matter of the 2-3 weeks leading up to that, everybody had ratcheted back. And the industry was caught flat-footed then, especially supply chain. It's just, we haven't seen the last of that. I think we're in this roller coaster on supply chain for the balance of the year. It's not going to end anytime soon.
I had to laugh when Don was talking to his franchisees about being a little more sympathetic to the distributors. It was the same conversation I had today was, boy, you got to understand where these guys are coming from. Cisco and the distributors are an easy punching bag, but they've had a tough time of it.
It is tough. So you've all mentioned a lot of digital orders. I think, Jeff, you talked about it specifically, but I think we heard it from everyone, and speed. So what do you see as the impact on operations of more people ordering digitally? And what kind of changes are you going to make to your operations to adapt accordingly? Don, you want to take it?
Yeah, I think it boils down to one thing. It's simultaneous order arrival. That's the operational challenge. I'm going to say for everybody. And I don't know that anybody has a total solution for that yet. This is an industry that, especially within QSR and fast casual, is linear. If I go back several years ago, again, 90% of my business was somebody that waited in line, placed an order at the cash register, either to dine in or take it out. 90% of the business. The balance was catering, a little bit of online orders, third-party delivery didn't exist back then. Now, fast forward to today, that 45% of my business is what I would call non-traditional, 55% of the business at the register. It's changed dramatically. And out of that 45%, that can come in, again, simultaneous ordering that just absolutely swamps production. How do you queue it? How do you manage guest expectation is one of the main things. Because they're not there, they don't see how busy it is. Back in the old linear days, the customer sorted that out. We all feared that. We've all seen it. The customer, you're busy, long line. You see the customer come in the door, they creak it open, put their head in, say, nah, and walk away, and you're like, your heart sinks. Because, oh, there's a lost transaction. You're like, if you could reach out and get him, it's like, please, we'll be fast. Come on in. But the customer sorts all that out. That person maybe was disappointed, but they didn't have a bad experience either. They knew right away that it's not going to meet my need state today. So they take themselves out of it. In the world of digital ordering, all these platforms, they don't know. And boy, if you don't deliver on the experience, you don't have the online order ready, et cetera, it's a mess. And then I'm sure we've all seen this. You're managing that expectation, but then you've got the guest eyeball to eyeball, and they don't see the fact that you've got 45% of your business piled up on the back with no people attached to it, but it's still got to be made at the same time. And it is the issue of the day or the year or the decade, I think, for restaurants to figure this out.
So Don, it sounds like operations just keep getting easier. What do you think about that, Jeff?
Yeah, the reality is that we were already dealing with that pre-COVID just because of how people use this in downtown Chicago, and it's only going to get worse. My concern, it goes back to labor, is we had a lot of people who've adopted delivery from us, and we actually don't, on our app, we have delivery, but it's executed on a last mile by a third-party provider. And the third-party providers are becoming strangled by labor. And we're starting to see disappointment and frustration from our guests because we can't live up to the delivery end of the bargain because they don't have the drivers. And it's Grubhub, Uber, DoorDash, all of them in Chicago, where there's times where you'll go on and our restaurants will be turned off on those platforms because they don't have any drivers for them, which is just terrifying to me, right? That we taught all these consumers that they could get food delivered with ease, like pushing a button, and the consumer didn't care how much it costs, right? They were willing to accept the convenience and the cost with it. So I'm really worried about what's going as the labor market gets tighter and tighter, how Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber, those three in particular, are going to manage this workforce and manage the customer expectation. because when March Madness was going on here in Chicago, it was just a train wreck. It was hit or miss if you could get anything ordered from anybody on those third parties, just because the demand outweighed the amount of drivers they had on the street.
Yeah, big challenge. Michael, what do you see?
Yeah, and we get blamed for it. So
Exactly.
the third-party delivery drivers can't perform, and oh, they must be too busy. What's wrong with them? And we work with Olo as the consolidator. We have been working with them to go ahead and be able to pace out the orders that come in. What kills us is no one really sees, to Don's point, the traffic in the shop. So suddenly we'll get an order for 20 bowls, 20 entrees, and in the middle of the rush. How do we deal with that? How can we go ahead and say, you got to give us a little time to make this and allow, people who are ordering 2 or 3 to get their food in a timely manner. So both Don and Jeff have outlined the real problems with digital ordering. I mean, there's tons of opportunity with digital ordering. Our ticket sizes are dramatically higher. It gives us an opportunity to upsell in the easiest manner possible. It allows us to be a little more organized, actually. I think the worst train wreck we had was when we did a grand opening when all the dining rooms were closed. We did the grand opening, we got 45 orders in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. So I don't know how to manage this kind of stuff. Just trying to figure out how to use it to our advantage.
Sounds like we might need a panel just on this particular topic one day, sometime soon.
We need to get the consolidators on that panel to tell us how they're going to help us fix it.
Or better yet, for us to tell them how they can help us fix it, because we have to be proactive as restaurateurs.
Oh, they hear it.
Oh, they hear it, but
Sure.
we're going to come up with solutions, I think. So just we each of you have about a minute, but is there a last comment you want to make in terms of what's going on, how you feel, or something you've seen innovatively, or anything that's special for our audience? Don?
I would suggest to operators that as they look back on the last 13 months, they have a sober examination of what the consumer has liked about their brand during this whole experience and what they don't like about the brand in this experience, especially as it may be different from before the pandemic, because their success in the future is going to rest more on how the consumer has used them and viewed them during this period. That anybody who looks at it as just going back to the way things were is going to be in a weak position when this is all said and done.
I guess, Don, it's no longer 2019. Jeff?
No, I would just say that one of the things we discovered at Protein Bar and Kitchen was to lean in on our strengths. I mentioned earlier the super blends that we added to the menu. It's created a whole new use. It's something that we were already really good at. Maybe it wasn't as obvious to us that you could have functional beverages that served other purposes other than being a protein-based shake for our concept. But I would challenge everyone to Don's point, look at the things that you did well over the past 12 months, look at the areas of opportunities you need to clean up, but focus on what makes your brand special, what makes your concept special, and really lean in hard on that and be very proud of it and promote it.
Excellent. Michael?
Yeah, I've got 2 things. One is the tech stack is becoming more and more important by the day. And how does one vet all these ideas that are pitched to us on a daily basis of here's the new thing that you can apply to make your business better? And I think being able to depend on groups and folks who are in the industry to be able to ask them their experiences or what they think about it. I mean, I've got all that kind of questions about ghost kitchens and that whole piece. And I learn by talking to other folks who have given it a try. But I think I'm just getting older, because my number one piece of advice is fundamentals. Don't lose sight of the fundamentals. It's no longer customer service for us. It's user experience. And that's the new terminology for us. It's user experience. How do you absolutely minimize friction on the ordering experience and the customer experience of getting your offerings? How can you provide a smile with the food, and how can you get it to them in a timely manner? that meets their expectations.
Terrific. So, Don, Jeff, Michael, thank you. You were all fabulous today. Fast Casual Industry Council and the NRA, everyone appreciates all that you do, and see you again soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.